All right, so we are live today. Welcome to Church Leadership Show. I'm your host, Pastor Ariel Nieves, and I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me clearly. So I'm going to do a quick audio check. I know that there's always some sort of technology gremlin, so I want to make sure video and the audio are going okay. So give me 1 second. Yep, here we go. There we go. I just heard myself. So we are live. Awesome. So let me just take a moment and introduce myself. I'm the executive pastor. I'm the administrative pastor at Christ Tabernacle. I'm a church of 4,000 members in New York City. And I'm also the founder of Thrive Church Coaching, where I help pastors reach more people and make a greater impact. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about clarity, this idea of gaining clarity. Forgive me if it's a little loud. I'm actually in my office at the church. And I have an office with a window, and of course, the main street always has all of these buses, and very distracting at times. So forgive me if it's a little loud. But anyway, so today we're going to talk a little bit about providing clarity. Providing clarity. And I think it's one of the major challenges that pastors are having is the ability to provide clarity. But before we jump in, I want to real quickly just kind of quick word from our sponsor. So the Church Leadership Show is actually brought to you today by Church Leadership Academy. And so Church Leadership Academy is just an opportunity that we have. I'm actually going to introduce it to you real quick. It is a website, a membership website that I've created to be able to just share with pastors insights and wisdom. And so it's based on 6 topics. We've got evangelism, worship service, assimilation, discipleship, leadership, stewardship. And so every single month we produce a master class and we produce a how-to. And so, for example, the month of November, we've got a training with Monique Paniago, who is she's a principal by trade, but she's also teaches and trains on small groups. And so we got a master class on how your teaching ministry can help you mature your congregation. In essence, we talk a lot about creating curriculum and how to create a curriculum that's going to help you mature. And so there's master classes, there are how-tos, there are resources you can download, videos you can watch, and it's all available for just $1. So you've got a 7-day trial for $1. And that's, you can just go to, oh my goodness, if you guys hear what I'm hearing, I cannot believe I'm hearing that. My apologies for that. Of course, there's a fire truck coming right in front of our window. But all of that is available. Just go to churchleadershipacademy.com/join CLA. All right, so let's jump into our topic. Actually, before we jump into the topic, I've got one more favor I want to ask of you, and here's the favor. Whether you're watching live or you're going to watch the replay, I would love for you to do one thing for me. I would love for you to answer one question. And so as a pastor or a church leader, what is the biggest challenge you're facing? What is the biggest challenge you're facing? Write it in the comments area. It's going to help me with future topics for the Church Leadership Show. So please do me a favor, write it in there now. All right, great. So awesome. Thank you for all of that. And I think we're ready to jump into our topic. And so for today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the idea of gaining clarity. This idea of gaining clarity. And so the idea of gaining clarity is really rolls around this conversation that I've been having with different pastors. And so last week, I had received a question about how to help volunteers create buy-in, how to get volunteers to really feel like they're excited about the mission and the vision of the organization. And so I gave my answer, but as I thought about it during the week, one of the answers that I wish I would have given was this idea of helping volunteers and staff create clarity, because the better that your volunteer and your staff understand the direction you're heading, the better they're going to be able to align themselves with it. And so really helping volunteers and staff understand the direction the church is heading, that is the idea behind clarity. And so if you've ever struggled to gain clarity, to provide clarity for someone else, then today we're going to really tackle that. All right, so I hope you guys are ready. One person that I've been coaching, one of the pastors I've coached based out of California, he kind of framed it this way. He said that he had a clear vision. He said, I have a clear vision. I just don't know how to clearly communicate it to others. Right? I have a clear vision. I just don't know how to clearly communicate it to others. And that's one of the challenges that we face when it comes to it. And here's why it's so important. Clarity, or another biblical word that I would use for this, revelation, this idea that at one point I saw partially, but now for whatever reason, God has kind of opened up the curtains and I can actually see behind the curtains. I can see clearly now. Right? So revelation, clarity, the idea that we go from seeing, not seeing, or seeing partially to seeing clearly. And so interesting, when I was in college, I had a challenge. I had developed nearsightedness. And so I hated to wear my glasses. I hated them. I know. I was very vain. But I would be driving my wife, or at that point she was my girlfriend. I would be driving her home. And because I couldn't see from far, everything was blurry, I would miss an exit. And then all of a sudden she'd be like, you just missed the exit. It wasn't that I was a bad driver. It wasn't that I was a bad person. It's that I couldn't see clearly, so I couldn't see the exit. And as a result, I caused two things. One, there was a delay. See, wherever there's a lack of clarity, there are always delays. And make sure if you're writing, you're taking notes, write that down. Wherever there is a lack of clarity, there will always be delays. See, if you thought you were going to accomplish something in a specific time, whenever there's a lack of clarity, it's going to take you longer. And so if ever at any point you're on a task or a mission and you realize it's taking a little longer than it should, it's probably because someone on the team is lacking clarity. Then the second thing it does is it creates frustration. Oh man, I mean, I think the first time my wife thought it was cute, or my girlfriend at that time thought it was cute, the second, third, fourth, fifth time, it was a source of frustration because we weren't getting where we wanted to get to at the time we thought we should get there. And see, that's what happens in churches. Pastors find themselves frustrated at volunteers. Volunteers find themselves frustrated at pastors. And it leads to this environment where it almost feels like there's a disconnect between the two. Like we're not on the same side. Like the expectations and the ability to meet the expectations, that there's a gap, a divide. And really that has everything to do with a lack of clarity. And so today we're going to actually review 6 questions that are going to help us to gain some clarity. All right. And so these 6 questions are actually an excerpt from a book called The Advantage. Let me show you the book. Oh, extreme close up. This is a book. It's called The Advantage. It's by Patrick Lencioni, one of my favorite leadership books. And so let me unpack these 6 questions and then we're going to do a deep dive. All right. So question number 1 is, why do we exist? Question number 2 is, how do we behave? Question number 3 is, what do we do? Question number 4 is, how will we succeed? Question number 5 is, what is most important right now? Question number 6 is, who must do what? So those are the 6 questions. Let's take a deep dive. Okay, so question number 1, why do we exist? So that really has a lot to do with the question about purpose. So when we're talking about purpose, we're really answering the question, what's the core purpose of the organization? Why is it that we do what we do? And so a lot of people usually answer that question by saying we reach the lost. But two challenges with that answer. One, reaching a lost is something we do. It's a what. It's not a why. And then the second is that it's really a universal thing. So everyone reaches the lost. But the question is, if we're looking at core purpose, why are you in your community? Why are you in the area that you are in? Why are you planted where you are planted? So that's the question number 1. Why do we exist? Why are you where you are at? Why do we as an organization exist? Question number 2, how do we behave? So first, we identify our core purpose, the why do we exist. And second, we've got to start to identify our core values. And so Jim Collins in his book, Built to Last, he kind of framed it this way. He said that successful companies adhere strictly to a fundamental set of principles that guided their behaviors and decisions over time. I'm going to say it one more time. Successful companies adhere strictly to a fundamental set of principles that guided their behaviors and decisions over time. In other words, we make these decisions. We make these decisions based on a list of core values that we have. And so how we behave preserves who we are. And so there are three types of values that we kind of mistake. We think they're core values, but really when we're creating values, one of the mistakes we make is that we actually choose what are called aspirational values. So an aspirational value is what we want to become. So for example, I remember one time I was sitting in a meeting and we were talking about creating rest as one of our values. We said, yeah, we don't do it well. We're always at a fast pace, but if we want to slow down, we've got to add rest. So I got it, but it wasn't a core value. It was really an aspirational value. It's something that we wanted to become, but we weren't at the moment. 2, there's what we call permission to play values. So permission to play value is really simple. What a permission to play value is, what's the minimum standard you need in order to be in an organization? So let me say it this way. Integrity should not be a value for a church. Why? Because it's expected that if you are in a church, that you are going to live a life of integrity. So it shouldn't be a core value because it's a minimum. It's what we call permission to play values. We are expecting that if you are going to preach a sermon, you're going to tell the truth. You're going to be a man of integrity as a pastor. It is expected of you. So when we're creating core values, you've got to just kind of understand mistake number 1 is this idea of creating aspirational values. It's what we want to become, but it's not who we are today. Then there's permission to play values. This is expected. You know, it's interesting. When I'm having conversations with volunteers and staff, and they say to me, let me be honest with you. A part of me, I stop them all the time. I said, please, you don't have to say that. I am expecting that you are being honest with me. That's this idea of permission to play. And then the third is what's called accidental values. And these are values that are evident, but they weren't intentional. So for example, because of the culture we're in, we see more young adults wearing skinny jeans. One of our values as an organization isn't that we wear skinny jeans. It's just accidental. It's just a part of the overall community that we're reaching. So you want to make sure that you take the time to identify core values. So question number 1 was, why do we exist? When we're talking about clarity, why do we exist? Question number 2, how do we behave? Question number 3, what do we do? So what do we do has everything to do with our mission statement. So that's what this is. It's simply our mission statement. And so, for example, again, at Christ Tabernacle, where I work at, we reach the lost, we grow the believer, and we transform communities. That's our mission. And so our mission tells people what we do. So again, just to be clear, why we do it is different than what we do. So why we do it, why do we exist, what's our purpose? That was question number 1. Question number 3 is, what do we do? What is our mission? How do we actually live this thing out? Question number 4, how will we succeed? So this has more to do with strategy. And so this is really a plan for success. So when we're thinking about what we want to do, we have to go take a step back, right? So question number 3, what do? We take a step back. Question number 4 is, how do we actually do? How do we do it? How do we accomplish that mission? What are the things we're doing? So we're doing maybe Sunday outreaches or street meetings. Maybe we're doing some sort of feeding the homeless or a food pantry, whatever it is. Those are the strategies behind doing what we want to do. That leads us to question number 5. What is most important right now? So I'm going to take a moment. This is probably one of the most crucial questions we've got to answer, because especially when we're a small church, I've been working with a lot of small churches. It seems like there's a long list of all the things they want to do. There's a lot of excitement and passion. But there's usually one thing we've got to do right now that's most important, that should really get all of our attention. So, for example, There are many churches that were just reaching out. They were doing Halloween alternative services. If you're doing a Halloween alternative service, then really it should be the number one thing you're focusing on. Again, I'm not saying you don't do what you normally do, but it's the most important thing that you're doing right now. And so we, as an organization at Christ Tabernacle, for example, we're gearing up for Christmas. And so we've got rehearsals going, we've got decorations going up. Everyone is gearing towards Christmas. So it is the most important thing we're doing right now. And again, the reason I stress that is because sometimes what churches do is we get tripped up on this long list of objectives. And so these are things that, yeah, they need to get done, but do they need to get done right now? And if it's the most important thing, not only does it need to get done, but we need to make sure that the entire organization is rallying around this one objective. And so for something to be on the top, right, in order for it to be the top most important thing, it means that something else has to be on the bottom. And so it's identifying priorities. When you can identify priorities for your volunteers, you are already starting to win. Because now the volunteers start to clearly understand, this is important, but that is the most important. So that's question number 5. And here's the key. It's not just important to one department. So when we're going to say this is the most important thing, what we've got to make sure we're clear with saying to other people is that this is the most important thing to the overall organization, to the overall church, not just to one person. So question number 6, the last question. Who must do what? So this has everything to do with flow charting and understanding roles and responsibilities. And it's interesting because recently I did a team exercise where I kind of took the admin team that I'm overseeing. Again, I've only been in the role since January, so I'm kind of getting accustomed to things and accustomed to people. And I had one spokesperson from every department kind of step up and just talk a little bit about what they do. It was fascinating to see how even though there were one department, within the department, not the organization, just the department, people weren't clear on each other's roles. They were like, you do that? Oh, wow, I didn't realize you did that. And it was fascinating and interesting to just kind of find out what other people did and the reactions they had when they started to understand what the team actually did. And so when we're answering this question, who must do what? It's this idea of, in essence, simply putting together a flowchart, understanding who plays what role and what are the expectations we have of them. And whether you've got staff or volunteers, okay, because a lot of times the question I get is, well, I only have volunteers. Why do I need to do a flowchart? Because your volunteers need to understand what's expected of them. All right, so those are the 6 questions. Let's just recap real quickly. Why do we exist? How do we behave? What do we do? How will we succeed? What is most important right now? And who must do what? Now, let me just say this before we end. What's critical about answering these questions isn't just that you, as the senior pastor or a key leader, know the answers, but that the people, the volunteers, and the staff members who report to you, who serve under you, know those answers too. So the moment that you say, why do we exist? You ask that question. Your answer and the answers of the people under you should be exactly the same. And that's where how clarity is created, because we begin to understand the answers to some of the crucial questions of the organization. And whether you say it verbatim or not, it's really irrelevant. It's more of that we understand the key components of each answer. So when I say, well, why do we exist? Everybody understands why we exist. Everybody in the organization understands. When we talk about how do we behave, everybody needs to know what those core values are so that they can adhere to them. When we talk about what do we do, everyone should know the mission. They should understand why they are doing what they're doing, what role they play in accomplishing that mission. How will we succeed? Everyone should understand the strategies. Everyone should understand why we're going to do services on Saturdays and not Sundays, or what we're doing Sundays at 9 o'clock and not Saturday at 7 p.m. They should understand why we do what we do. They should understand what's the most important thing right now, right? So everyone has this focal point, this objective that they're all working towards. And then lastly, they've got to know who must do what. And so, as I mentioned earlier, this show, the Church Leadership Show, is brought to you by the Church Leadership Academy. Again, if you'd like to join churchleadershipacademy.com/join CLA, it's a 7-day trial for $1. And it's just a membership site that I have with a compilation of every month we release how-tos and master classes. And it's ultimately just $20 a month, but you can try it for 7 days for just $1. All right, so that's pretty much the lesson for now. So if you've got any questions, feel free to add them into the comments. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining us for the Church Leadership Show. We'll talk soon. Take care and God bless.